The relationship between education and incarceration has been clear for decades. We have known for that long that youth who are not connected to school are at much higher risk of becoming delinquent, and we know from the data from the adult justice system that the overwhelming majority of people who end up in the jails and prisons of this country are amongst our most underachieving fellow citizens in terms of their educational rate. So we find now 75% of the people who are behind bars in state facilities are in fact people who did not complete high school. We are talking about some of the most important beginning points for some of the most troubling problems in our society, including the fact that more than 50% of African American men who drop out of high school will end up in prison or jail at some point in their lives. And that as we meet here today, African American males who are being born have almost a 1 in 3 chance by the time they reach age 30 of having been incarcerated. Those are the terms, and that's why this is really not an academic discussion at all. It is a discussion that's got to lead to both our greater awareness and our mobilization to find better solutions than throwing kids out of the places where they need to be.
It's this backward thinking of, well, the kids who are causing trouble, let's get them out of the schools. Those are the kids who need the most help. And we're telling you, we need that support, we need that. And as systems, and this is in our work, what we challenge systems to do is, what will your role be? If you just say, my job is just, you know, we all have our little kingdoms, and one of the principals said, you know, well, no one should ever get in the way of learning, or some grand statement he had. And he was just so clear about that. And it gets to be, well, what is your role in educating and keeping in school those who need it the most? Down the street, the Juvenile Justice Center, where the kids stay, 116 kids there today, 113 black males, right? That's just reality. And those kids have been there, and they're going to continue to go through that cycle. And those kids, majority of them are not in school or not getting connected to school when they come out, right? And so again, I'm just putting this out, it's a national crisis, should be. Because at the end of the day, this is about changing policies and practices as much as changing people's behavior.
For 10 years now, we've been doing something called community conferencing. Basically, what we've been trying to do is get our institutions to ask a different set of questions when harm is done, and to get them to not ask who did it and how can we punish them, but to get them to think about asking who's been affected and how can we repair the harm and prevent this from happening again in the future. And so a community conference brings together everybody who's affected by an incident or a situation and their respective supporters. People get a chance to hear from each other, they get a chance to give voice to what their experience is, and they get to hear from others what their experience is. And what happens in that circle is that people get in touch with their own humanity and with the humanity of everybody else in that circle. So it's no longer that punk-ass kid who stole my car. This is a young man who's struggling and who's got a family that's struggling who might need some help. And then we ask the group, once everybody's had a chance to talk, what do you want to do to make this better?
The pictures that you're going to see have never been published anywhere inside the United States. I was a staff photographer at Time magazine for the last 25 years. My publication refused to publish these pictures. It was too close to home. The advertisers wouldn't like it. Now please understand that what you're going to see, this is an Abu Ghraib prison. This is children writhing on the floor of dungeons right here in the United States, and the entire editorial board of Time magazine, the biggest news magazine in the whole United States, knows this is true and still doesn't care about it. Still will not publish the information. This is a story of Chris. Chris had been to court 13 times when I took this photograph. Started off with a very minor offense. I don't remember exactly what the offense was, but clearly status. Each time he went to court, his arraignment was postponed, not the arraignment, the hearing was postponed and postponed and postponed. on several occasions because his court-appointed attorney showed up either drunk or under the influence of drugs, and the repeated requests by his father to appoint another counsel weren't approved. This is a young lady named Linda Lerma. She was an A student. All was fine until she was sexually molested by her father at age 7. Since then, she's been in and out of the juvenile detention center. She was originally at the psych hospital when they had a psych hospital. She's been in and out of the juvenile detention center, 4 suicide attempts, and yet she keeps coming back to juvenile, and they don't know what to do with her. I asked her, I said, how did you feel? I did interviews with each of these kids, audio interviews. I said, how did you feel about the suicide attempt? And she thought, and she was quiet for a long time. And then she looked at me and she said, I wished it would have worked.
We have policies in place, we have laws in place that support this dysfunctional environment that we must challenge, and we must institute changes in the policies to create a new environment to produce a better product, which hopefully is young people that grow up to be prosperous and productive adults.
I think that we fund our problems, and then we wring our hands, and then we talk about reforming systems, when we really don't want those people to be in systems anyway. And we talk a lot about, if the best thing you can do is to help me by putting one of my kids in a system, then really get the heck out of my way. Just give me the same opportunities that you have, and then we'll be on it. And there is a movement in town that I've heard about that is really advancing this notion that it is about opportunity, not prevention or remediation and fixing and blah, blah, blah. And there is a financing tool that I've heard about called the Opportunity Compact that actually makes a deal with the state. We do something good here as an alternative to incarceration, and it works, and the state funds the alternative and gives us half of the savings.
As an assistant principal in a Baltimore City school, we have fair student funding, we have No Child Left Behind, and a lot of these things do not really serve the child. It's a tough situation, and I see where some children will end up in prison. And we can't save all of them, but I told my kids, when I give up on you is when they fold my arms over my chest. Because every child deserves the right to become a productive member of society.
I see young people incarcerated for very long periods of time who have been trapped in the juvenile justice system and now into the adult system, and I would like to see that stemmed and stopped, because once they get with me at age 18 in adult prison, they're never getting out. They may get out, but they'll come back, and they do. I want to see that stopped.
The thing I think that needs to change is the mindset of the people who, by happenstance or circumstance, are in this vicious cycle of treating the symptoms and not attacking the root causes of the symptoms. And this work here, and what we learned today, is that we have to go at the root of the problem to bring resolve. And the change has to happen in the mindsets of the policymakers, of the funders, of the service providers, and we have to provide opportunities and resources to train a different way of thinking so we can resolve this issue.
What I liked about today's program is that you had a lot of different people coming in and talking about the school to prison pipeline. And this is a problem that has been in existence for at least a decade. And you have a lot of people now who are, they have a vested interest in trying to stop this phenomenon among urban youth.